have some people joining us remotely. Usually this is going to be the consultants, the supervisors, and commission members who can be here in person. Again, this meeting is also available remotely. If you refer to the agenda, you have the link to join online. And I think this is it. Yes, okay, so let's do a roll call.
Commission Member Reed.
Here.
Commissioner Daddle.
Here.
Commissioner Ullman.
Here.
Commissioner Kim is not currently present. Commissioner Serena.
Here.
Commissioner White is not currently present. Chair Mvondo.
Here.
Commissioner Austin.
Joining virtually.
Commissioner Alvarez is not present. Commissioner Bennett. Commissioner Britton.
Here.
Then ex officio member Morgan.
Here.
And Kirk.
Here.
And then it looks like I don't see Supervisor Frericks and I see Oliver. Are you representing Supervisor Provenza today?
Yes, I'm here on his behalf. Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Oliver. Okay, so let's go through our agenda items. Let's start with agenda item number 1. Commissioner Reed will read the land acknowledgement for us. Thank you. Your name is here, no?
Apologies, I just
Oh,
realized
sorry.
that we do not have a commission member on the agenda for the land acknowledgement. If there's somebody who would like to volunteer, that'd be greatly appreciated.
I'm
Our
happy.
apologies.
Written.
Sure.
Thank you, Ken.
We should take a moment to acknowledge the land upon which we are gathered. For thousands of years, this land has been the home of the Patwin people. Today, there are 3 federally recognized Patwin tribes: Cachildehi Band of Winton Indians, the Calusa Indian Community, the Quetzaldehi Band of Winton Indians, and Yochadehi Winton Nation. Remain committed to the stewardship of this land over many centuries. It's been cherished, protected, as elders have instructed the young through generations. We are honored and grateful to be here today on their traditional lands.
Thank you, Commissioner Britton. Let's see if I can get the agenda right this time. So now we're looking at agenda item number 2, and that's approval of the minutes of last month's meeting. Okay, do we have any comment on that, or do we have a motion to approve the minutes as you've received them?
I move approval. Commissioner Reed.
I'll second the motion.
Commissioner Ullman, feedback, questions, discussion on this before we vote? Okay, I think we're ready for a vote.
Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
Commissioner Daddle.
Aye.
Commissioner Ullman.
Aye.
Commissioner Serena. Chair Mvondo.
Aye.
Commissioner Austin.
Aye.
Commissioner Bennett. Commissioner Britton.
The motion passes. Thank you. So we now are moving on to agenda item number 3, and we are opening the floor to public comments. So as a reminder, you're invited to state your name if you like, any affiliation you'd like us to be aware of, and you have 3 minutes.
Oh, sorry, quickly.
Yes.
Gretchen noted we approved the minutes, but
Yes.
we didn't approve the agenda item number 2.
Okay, so
I move approval of the agenda. Commissioner Reed.
I'll second that. Commissioner Daddle.
any question, comments, feedback on this before we vote on approval of the agenda? Okay, let's vote.
Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
Commissioner Daddle.
Aye.
Commissioner Ullman. Commissioner Serena. Aye. Chair Mvondo.
Aye.
Commissioner Austin.
Aye.
Commissioner Bennett. Commissioner Britton.
Okay, so the agenda has been approved, and then I just want to state for the record that I moved a little bit too quickly. So we approve the minutes from last month. That was agenda item number 4. We just approved agenda item number 2. And our good news, we're going to be on agenda item number 3. Just keep up. Okay, so you have the floor. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Leslie Crenna. I'm with Cole Davis. It's very gratifying to be here in this cool and lovely building, and I'm very thrilled that the hybrid format has been integrated into the commission's work. I'm here to follow up on some work. I have already contacted the commission via email and staff about the Earth Day pledge, Earth Day pledge that Cool Davis has launched as of yesterday. We are very happily accepting Yolo County residents, accepting signups for the pledge. We're asking residents of Yolo County to make a commitment or at least a good effort to accomplish at least six carbon reducing actions in 6 different categories, 1 action in each category between now and next Earth Day. And if all goes well, then maybe we can repeat. I'm happy to answer any questions if that's a possibility. I have the list here of the specific actions. I will need to update the materials. There's been a couple updates. We are very excited to be expanding beyond Davis. We have gotten a pledge from Puerto Rico, so we'll have to think about that a bit. But we're really excited about this pledge. I feel like it's gotten a lot of positive feedback already. Human beings like deadlines, crazy as that seems. And we like to do what we say and say what we do. And I know that there's not a deficit of caring out there in the world and in our county. The people in this county care about climate change. And obviously this commission is tasked with the cap and reducing carbon emissions in the county. And I congratulate you on finalizing the cap. Cole Davis will be putting that out in our newsletter this coming May. We also invite commissioners to pledge. We have a great big QR code behind there. I can leave some updated materials as well, just to serve as a model for residents in the county to let them know that it's important and that you support it. And we are hoping to expand our numbers greatly over the next 3 months. We are accepting new pledges over a 3-month period. So we're giving ourselves a great big window to get as many people on board as we can. We'll be doing a lot of support activities, online gatherings, in-person gatherings, and providing informational support for all of these actions that we are suggesting that folks pick. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Leslie. As a reminder, this was a public comment from Cool Davis, and the information is online, and further information about the pledge is online as well.
At www.cooldavis.org/pledge.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming in person today. Any further public comments?
I don't see any online.
Okay, so I think this concludes our time on agenda item number 3. At this point, I'm going to very humbly ask for the support of all of my commissioners to make sure that we follow our agenda properly, because I've been skipping a few items out of excitement.
If I could just add for the record, we have now been joined by Commissioner White and Commissioner Kim.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us. So we are now looking at agenda item number 5. We're going to listen to staff announcement and reports. So Gretchen and Kristen, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. So our staff announcements are fairly quick. So the first item is a Yolo County Climate Compact. So as folks know, we have our Climate Action Commission, and then we also have the Yolo Climate Compact that had until the end of this year been chaired by Supervisor Saylor. So at this point, staff is tasked with trying to figure out the best path forward for the compact. And so we sent out a survey to the entire compact mailing list, trying to gauge input in terms of what folks feel like they need from that network, what would be most beneficial to their work, their organizations, and thinking through how do we have complementary actions between the commission and the compact. And so for any folks here and any folks joining online, if you have not yet filled out that survey, we would really appreciate if you could. We've received about 50 responses already, and really there's a strong response that the compact is extremely valuable to the Yolo County community and to the environmental community, and we need to find a place forward, and whether that's in a hybrid format, and all of these things we're trying to figure out. And so we're have a little extra window of time, or we'd like to collect another few responses. So if you have not received that email, or if you're not on the compact mailing list, you can email sustainability@yolocounty.org, and we can forward that survey along to you as well. The other item, I'll share a quick update on behalf of staff, and then I'll pass it over to Oliver to see if there's anything that he would like to add. But in terms of Brown Act advocacy, the county, our commission chair, and our supervisors, Provenza and Frericks, have been engaged in advocacy around providing additional flexibility in the Brown Act to allow for hybrid and remote meeting participation. We were at the Capitol last week having conversations, and we'll be back this week attending hearings. And it is, we're hoping that there's some traction here, and we'll see how things go. We can, we're on a sort of a short turnaround, but we will continue to provide updates and see how things go. There's a hearing on Wednesday where a lot of these Brown Act related pieces of legislation are being heard and discussed. So we'll be planning on attending and providing testimony to share a little bit about what it means to the county and to our commission to be able to have remote access to these meetings. So we'll keep updating folks. And Oliver, is there anything else that you would like to add on behalf of Supervisor Provenza?
I think you covered most of it pretty well. Yeah, I know we're talking to the CAO's office, and I know the CAO is talking to one of the other supervisors to either have the CAO or one of the supervisors at the hearing on Wednesday to promote on behalf of Yolo County the bill. And we did hear that the meeting we had with Assemblymember Aguilar Curry, who chairs the local government commission, apparently she found it very productive and helpful. So we are hopeful moving forward.
Can we open the floor for questions? Do you have any questions at this point? Commissioner Serena.
Yeah, I have a question. For the Wednesday hearing, will there be an opportunity for virtual public comment? Are they going to be leaving space for that? I'm sure they will, but.
I know that the only public comment is in person at the Capitol. So continuing to show the need for remote participation, just getting folks there is certainly a challenge. So unfortunately, only public comment can be provided in person.
Okay, maybe is there, do you guys have the time down for when the hearing is taking?
10 a.m.
10 a.m. Okay.
It's 10 a.m. and I'm just pulling up the address right now to have that included in our minutes.
Would it be too much on you, Kristen, and the team, maybe to send a brief information to the whole commission on that? I was wondering also, some commissioners might be interested in filling out a letter of support if it's not too late. I think that Kate Laddish gave us a link.
Yeah, I'll have to see. The county has submitted a letter of support. And so I'll have to talk with
Council.
council and the supervisors about what that process would be. And in terms of the meeting, it is Wednesday, the 26th. It's in the Capitol Building, room 127. All of the bills are being heard kind of one by one, specifically a lot of the conversations that we've been having around AB 817. And so I can share additional information. If anybody has questions, please feel free, can reach out to Kristen.Raithwall, KRISTEN.Raithwall, WRAITHWALL, long last name, at yolocounty.org, and I can provide additional information as well.
Thank you. Further questions? Yes, Commissioner Dattel.
I'm just curious, are other Yolo County commissions weighing in on this? Are you part of a coalition among our fellow commissions?
Yeah, in-home housing supportive services is going to be attending and has submitted a support letter as well. And then a number of county staff and departments will be there.
Yes.
Just wondering if there's anything going around that some kind of sign up or a support list where you guys can show like X amount of folks have signed to support this effort.
I will check. We're not the lead entity on organizing the advocacy effort. Rural counties of California has sort of been taking the lead on this. And so we're getting plugged in and trying to collect as many of these resources as possible. So I'll compile as much as I can to share with folks.
Thank you.
You have a comment? Okay, Commissioner Reid.
So the author office should have a fact sheet on the bill that possibly you could share with the commissioners. And everybody does their fact sheets differently, but typically they would list the supporters of the legislation. So that could give you some insight into other organizations who are advocating for the bill. You can also, by going to the legislative search link on the assembly.ca.gov, find the bill number and register to track the bill and also file comments on it through the ledge tracking system. So if we could have probably those two links for the commissioners, I think that would help you. The way the hearings work, it's a little discouraging to some people. Typically, an author is allowed to present a limited number of witnesses who each have a certain amount of time to testify. And then after that, no matter how many people have lined up to testify, they all get to say, "Me too." And that's it. So it is not that fruitful to go and attend unless you are a main witness. So registering your comments and support in writing through either directly the committee, the bill author, or through the tracking system is your best way to go.
Thank you for lifting that up, Commissioner Reid.
And also for those who want to look up the information online, we're referring to Assembly Bill 817, so AB 817. And at Kristen's suggestion, and I'm sure that was on several commissioners' mind as well, we suggest taking a vote. So is there anyone in the commission in favor of the commission as a body presenting a letter of support? So I'm going to hear a motion on that, and then we're going to place it over.
And I want to make sure too, we have some public comment on this item as well, so we can open it up for public comment.
And then this also is going to be pending approval of council, of
And
course. but-
before we do that,
Mhm.
Oliver has his hand up, so I'd like to.
Yes, of
Just-
course. Oliver?
Oh, yes. I just wanted to say two things. For the hearing on Wednesday, the deadline to submit letters of support for them to be considered at hearings is the Thursday before the hearing. So it's
Mm.
too late for tomorrow's hearing, but if you submit a letter of support and the bill advances past this hearing, then it would still obviously be very helpful. And then also I wanted to offer If anyone wants to try and get to Sacramento for this hearing, but might have transportation issues, they can reach out to our office and we can see what we can do to help. I think I'll be driving to Sacramento. So if if anyone needs a ride or anything, I can probably figure out a way to pick them up. So I just wanted to offer that.
So thank you so much for that, Oliver. And if anybody does plan on attending, if you could let me know as well, just so that we can coordinate. So at this point, I think we maybe hold off on a letter of support. If it advances out of committee, we can have a conversation next month
Mhm.
about providing a letter on behalf of the commission. I'm also looking to any other commission members who might have thoughts on best process on that, but that might be my recommendation.
Okay, let's follow that recommendation. I'll just encourage members of the public and fellow commissioners again to look up the bill online, AB 817, and as Commissioner Reed suggested, register to track the bill.
And Commissioner Austin's hand is up as well.
Hi, Bernadette, you have the floor.
Hi, yeah, and I've mentioned versions of this before, that we all have been selected because of the role that we play in our respective communities and organizations. So the organization that I run is providing support as well for this. So I would encourage you, if there's an opportunity for you to talk with the organizations that you serve or community groups that you represent, that's another way, not just you as an individual or on this commission, but that you can support this bill.
Thank you. So actually, before we close on this agenda item, I would like to ask you if you have any feedback or comment you'd like to further add. I'm asking that because even though we were going to take a vote on submitting a letter of support and it's past the deadline, I'm still wondering, Kristen, about still taking the vote, and we might not end up drafting a letter, but in the case, whatever happens on Wednesday, it's still needed, then that's something that will be done already. Okay, Commissioner Reed has a comment.
It won't surprise anybody that I'm not terribly respectful of deadlines. And so usually the deadlines really pertain to the staff that's drafting the staff reports on the legislation and whether your comments would be incorporated or into that. What's going to happen, or what should happen, is that there is already a staff report that's been created that possibly has recommended amendments to this bill or any other bill on the Brown Act that is passing through the committee. So it would be important for any letter that we write to address the bill as it may be revised in committee. Is it double referred by any or just single referral?
I think it's single referral. Is that correct, Oliver?
I'm not sure on that one.
Okay, and then the other question would be whether it's tagged
Oh.
as fiscal, in which case it would be going to appropriations committee. So there's a couple of more places where you can, and then it'll go to the floor. So there are a couple of more places where we can catch it. I still am in favor of making a motion, which I will, that the commission take a position on advancing the legislation, supporting the legislation and supporting its advancement through the legislative process, to begin to draft a letter that then can be considered once we have a final version of the bill as it emerges from this particular committee.
Thank you, Commissioner Reed. Okay, yes, Commissioner Britton.
How long, if it goes forward to the next step, which would be, I guess, appropriations, how long would that interval be? And would we have time to prepare our letter then that might be more targeted for the next committee?
You would have time to do that. There are deadlines, and again, the schedule of deadlines is available on the assembly.ca.gov website as well as senate.ca.gov. And the bills typically have to move through the first house, I would typically in another month or so. So we do have the time to draft a letter. And there have many more steps to go through. So there's there's various opportunities, as well as the the advocacy is ongoing, so that, that door is never shut until, it's not over till it's over, basically. So I would
Thank
say we come out loud and strong on our support for this, and especially given that we're a climate action commission and, the associated greenhouse gas emissions with transportation and mobilization to attend meetings, et cetera, is another factor that I think is we can draw some particular attention to.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Commissioner Reed and Britton. And what you said about GHG is also a point that we raised last week. I'm going to open this to public comments and then we're going to vote on that.
We have public comment from Christine Shoemaker.
Thank you for joining us, Christine. You have the floor and you have 3 minutes.
So I'm Christine Shoemaker from Woodland and, align with the goals on this, particularly from the climate action. Those of us who participate in a variety of climate action organizations or bodies, this is very important. So I'm thanking you for your support of this. And I think that some way of putting that forward would be good. I wanted to clarify that the committee that's meeting on Wednesday, that's the Assembly Local Government. Somebody just said that it was the committee on Wednesday at 10, and I wanted to verify that was the Assembly Committee on Local Government. And the other thing I also wanted to suggest is that you're talking about putting the information out to the other commissioners. If there's information out there as well that could go to the public, if there's ways members of the public, such as myself, could express their support, that would be good. It's bad, as Adelita points out, that, Commissioner Serena points out, that being able to go and do a Me Too virtually can have quite a bit of an impact if you get 50 or 60 people on the phone urging support. And I wanted to say that I looked up this on Leginfo, which is the site that Commissioner Reed was referring to, and it says active majority vote, non-appropriation, non-fiscal, non-state mandated local program, and non-urgency. And this is by Pacheco, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So I guess that would mean it would not go to approps since it's non-fiscal and non-approps.
Correct. And I can verify this is the local government committee and it'll be at 10 a.m. on Wednesday. So everything else that you shared, Christine, is correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Great. Okay, so we're going to hear a motion regarding drafting a letter of support on behalf of the commission, and we are going to need a second.
And I just
Yes.
to clarify, so this would be for us to support this particular piece of legislation and for staff to draft a letter that would come back to the commission for consideration at a future meeting.
Absolutely.
And given the information that we just received, which I haven't had time to look up, but it will be moving to the floor, but not necessarily ahead of the other bills that are coming out of appropriations. They usually bundle everything together and then it's all hands on deck. But it will be one less opportunity to express ourselves until it goes to the floor.
The motion?
I'd be happy to move that we authorize staff to draft a letter of support for AB 817.
And I second the motion.
Thank you.
Commissioner
So
Serena.
we already heard the public comments. I'm going to ask you again for any question, feedback before we vote. Don't see any reaction. We're ready to vote.
Commissioner Member Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Daddle,
Aye.
Commissioner Allman,
Aye.
Commissioner Kim.
Aye.
Serena,
Aye.
Commissioner White,
Aye.
Chair Mbondo,
Aye.
Austin,
Aye.
Commissioner Bennett,
Aye.
and Commissioner Britton.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you all. So moving on to agenda item number 6, we're going to hear an update on in-person climate action and adaptation plan outreach. And please refer to attachment C and D. Kristen, we're listening to you.
Thank you. I'm just quickly trying to minimize my screen here without accidentally ending the whole Zoom. The joys of doing screen share on a very tiny tablet screen. Give me 1 second.
Do you have access to the legislature? Do you have access to the internet?
All right, can folks see that all right? No, I'm seeing no. Oh, hold on 1 second.
Screen popped up with new share.
Oh, I see it.
All
We
right,
can see it now.
you can see it now. Excellent. All righty. I made Gretchen get up and stand at the podium, so I feel like it's only fair, and then you can all see me, so. I feel like this microphone has gotten taller since the last time we were here. It's on a box now. This is great. So thanks, everyone. Wanted to provide a little bit of an update just to get us on the same page about where we are at right now with our climate action and adaptation plan outreach. Want to walk through materials that we've developed in partnership with DUDEC, and just want to start by sharing great appreciation to DUDEC and to our equity and engagement TAC for providing amazing feedback, and for DUDEC to creating gorgeous deliverables that you will see as we go through the presentation. Provide a quick summary of the events that we've done to date. There have been 5, and then share our upcoming opportunities just so that everyone can block those off on the calendar. Anybody watching live or the recording can also see those as well. So for this initial round of outreach, so want to sort of start by taking a step back. We have a really busy month of April and into May, as folks know. Really, the purpose of this first round of outreach is to share information about the CAP, let the community know that this is happening, answer questions about it, engage in conversation, and begin to collect information and opinions about how folks feel about climate change, how they see it impacting them in their day-to-day. And so far, I feel like the events have really been giving us that information, and it's been great. We've had a lot of touches with the community and really positive feedback to the work that we've done so far. So quick overview of the things that have been created. All of these are included as attachments in your packet. So first, we have a simple survey that gauges comfort, familiarity with concepts. I think a lot that we have talked about as a commission, and something we had a lot of conversations about as an equity and engagement technical advisory committee, is what is the language that we should be using? Is climate change inflammatory? Is that something that resonates with folks? Is the concept of extreme weather something that we can have conversations about? And really what we're seeing to date is sort of a resounding yes, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, but I'll quickly go through this list and go through them each in greater detail. So CAP infographics, we have 3 main infographics that we have blown up and available on our table, also available for electronic distribution, sticker designs, flyers and QR codes that direct folks back to our social media pages, websites, and then a whole variety of kids activities that we can bring to tables, tabling events to engage with families. So all of these infographics are available in both English and Spanish. As you'll see, all of our materials, I should say, are available in both English and Spanish. So this first one here is a what is the county's CAP? The intent here was try to capture the various components of both the climate action and adaptation plan. So what are the 2 things that go into that? And trying to create a visual that represents Yolo County in a simple way. We've got a big county, it's a diverse county, and there's a lot to cover, and this cap is huge. So trying to distill this down to something that could be used as a talking point for conversations with folks who might have absolutely no idea what a cap is. So we've had these at our events in English and Spanish. We also have line versions of this to be used as coloring pages for kids. And so far this has been a focal point of a lot of conversations. Folks come over, they get down and look at it. And when we're talking about what a cap is, we can point to different parts of this diagram to demonstrate different parts of what this process are, ask questions, and folks can share sort of the good and bad that they feel about climate change and our process in the county. So this has been a really helpful tool. We also, because carbon sequestration is such a huge part of our cap, that's really unique. And the idea of carbon storage is not necessarily an intuitive concept. And so we wanted to have a simple, and even this, it's something that really requires you to look at and to really have a discussion about it. But we have this tool to try to distill down what is carbon sequestration? What is carbon storage? What are the different flows and how does this happen? This hasn't been as useful at some of our our Dia de los Niños events that we've been going to, but as we move forward, we have specific workshops, and this is going to be a more of a talking point as we move forward. This is going to be a really helpful tool. This is also available as a line drawing. And then the third infographic that we have is a step-by-step, what is a CAP process, to help describe in a very simple form, what are we going to be doing throughout this process? There's a CAP portal being delivered. It'll be an online tool where all of these things will live. It'll be interactive. When we get to the point where we have a draft plan, there'll be live document commenting online. We're hoping to be able to make that live in May. That portal will have a more detailed version of this 4-step process that includes specific dates, our workshops, the deliverables that are coming. And so for our outreach events, just having this simple, here is what the plan is. Right now, we're really at step 1. We're going out into the community. We're going to be developing some of our early equity and engagement strategies. And then we'll be going through to implementation over the next year and a half. So we've had 5 events to date in Esparto, Knights Landing, Woodland, and Winters. We've had conversations. I think at this point, I made this PowerPoint last week. It's definitely more than that now. We've spoken with over 300 community members, have close to 150 survey responses, and overall, really high level of familiarity with climate change and extreme weather. Folks are coming up to the table and saying like, well, yeah, I've experienced every one of these things. Can I check them all? And it's been a great starting point for conversation. Folks are adding in comments of other things they want to see included in our process, asking questions, sharing resources, signing up for our newsletter. And the other thing that we're seeing, the vast majority of respondents are saying that they have moderate to high, extremely high levels of concern for climate change. And so in terms of, step 1, early recruitment, I think this has been really insightful. As a staff member, I feel like this is giving me a lot of information that's really helpful as we think about developing our extended CAP survey that we really do our full countywide push for. So it's been really informative. And then I just want to touch on our schedule of upcoming outreach events. There's a lot more to come. Wanted to note that at the last commission meeting, there was a request for us to be at Whole Earth Festival. We received confirmation that we will have an educators booth at Whole Earth Festival. So we're working with the Whole Earth organizers to come up with time slots for us to be there throughout the 3-day event. So we'll share and publicize that updated schedule when it's available. And then also coming out of the last meeting, DUDEC did outreach to all of the chambers of commerce in the county. And we have a number of presentations either set up or pending. So we'll be the Davis Chamber of Commerce. We have a visual presentation expected in May. Winters were tentatively scheduled for the May 12th board meeting. Woodland Chamber of Commerce, they've confirmed that they would like us to present, and we're working out a time. And then we're still waiting to finalize with Esparto, West Sacramento, and the North Valley Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And then, in terms of additional opportunities, the Yolo County Planning Commission will be presenting at Yolo County Flood Control and Water Conservation District in July, and then we're exploring outreach to school boards as well. And then this is to say, this is one part of our outreach. Natural and Working Lands has an entirely separate and really detailed line of outreach. That TAC has been busy, and when we have Kate and Heather both on the line, and they can share more later in the agenda when we get to the National and Working Lands TAC. But that line of outreach is going to include presentations, distribution of paper surveys, and this is specifically the Natural and Working Land Survey and sequestration and emissions reduction practices that group has been really busy working to finalize, as well as ag-specific workshops as well. So once that whole set of outreach is finalized, we'll be sharing more information, and just want to give you the full breadth of what's going to be happening. And so with that, I will wrap it up and would love to hear if there's any questions.
Commissioner Britton.
Yeah, first I want to say that's really nice work you guys did with DUDAC. Those are great graphics. And at the risk of being a little to myself, the steaming cow poop really made that carbon sequestration thing complete. Perfect. Surprised it didn't get through to the audience. No, but the question was, you mentioned a lot of positive feedback that people were sympathetic and engaged, and that's fantastic news. Get any blowback? Did you? What about the other end of the opinion spectrum? Did you see them come to your table, and is there anything constructive we can learn from that?
Definitely. So yes, we've had that. And I think that we're also acknowledging that the 300 folks that we spoke to are the people who chose to come to a table that had big printouts of, green climate action, items. So we've had folks who've come to our table, taken a closer look, and just said, thank you, and walked away. And then we've also had folks who ask a lot of questions. Gretchen and Julia at an event had folks came up and were pretty confrontational and really wanted, like, what is the county doing? You're doing nothing. And so I think a big thing that we've been trying to do in these conversations is share all of the work of the commission. I think in general, when folks have been really concerned about what we are doing, they have never heard of the Climate Action Commission. They have no idea what we are trying to accomplish with this process. And so being able to share the membership of our working groups or now our TACs and the process that we've been going through and what we have planned. There have been some concerns about how we are addressing agriculture that came up at an event this weekend. And so being able to share that in the ag space, we're not here to, be confrontational with ag. That's the last thing that we want to do. And I think that's sometimes the perception when it comes to climate action. And so really talking about the messaging of how much just the ag community in Yolo County is leading the way in terms of sustainable agriculture. And that's really what we're wanting to do, is find practices that are happening, that are successful in finding ways to share information about them and make those easier. And I think we're trying to create a plan that's going to work for everybody. And I think education and messaging has been really helpful. So I think you all, as you have been so involved in this process, any of you coming to these events, just being able to talk about the process is what has resonated best with folks who have had concerns. And then the last thing that I will say, and this was a note to us, that we need to have a county map up on our tables. There's a lot of confusion, particularly with City of Davis just passing their cap last week. I have had folks from Davis come up and say, didn't you just finish this? Or congratulations on getting your cap approved. And I was like, I think you're thinking about Davis. We're Yolo County. And folks are like,
Yeah, Davis is in Yolo County. And so that education around what we are and specifically where our CAP is focused has been I think a pretty common topic of conversation with folks. So I'll leave it at that for now, but
Commissioner Kim, before you speak, I would like to encourage you all, if you could come a little bit closer to the mic. I want to make sure that people online are able to hear you clearly. Commissioner Kim?
Yes, thank you, Kristen, for the presentation and the fantastic staff work here. Quick question, because when I was giving out some of the surveys, I got feedback from some folks who were like, oh, is this it? I'm like, and I realized it's nice that the survey is short. It's like 1 page, but in your mind, so 2-part question, what was the most important insight you got from 300 surveys now being filled out, and or what was like the primary like research objective? And then number 2, is it too late now to add maybe one more question?
Kristen, before you answer, I want to make clear that this is a preliminary survey. So there is an actual survey that will come out later. Kristen will give us more information on that.
yeah, so and I think everybody online can now see the screen, the camera again, hopefully. So yeah, to second Chairman Bondo's comments, this is survey number 1. This is not the full CAP survey that we'll be doing our full publicity effort around. This really, I think that we view this as an opinion survey and trying to understand what's the language and tone that we need to be striking in our materials and in our survey for a full extended survey effort. You know, when it comes to this next round of survey that will have several additional questions added to, that's the one that we're going to be pubbing hard, you know, going through all of our everything is going to be hitting this survey. We're going to have a really big push around that. This is really, we want to make sure that we got the tone right from a smaller subset. And so I think that, and we've spoken with over 300 community members. We have about 150 survey responses, just to clarify there. And I think it is that folks are really concerned, and the topics, as we're discussing them, are resonating with folks. I think that sort of how we discuss our work, climate change, extreme weather, those are not topics that feel, I think overall folks feel really comfortable with those ideas. It was topics that they wanted to engage with. And we can frame our surveys around those topics. I think that that's really important for us to know, so that we're framing questions in a way that's accessible and doesn't turn folks off.
Thank you. I guess one follow-up question was, I just remember when one of the questions was like, which climate emergency is like, are you most concerned with? And everyone's like, oh, this is the most. Then they're like, oh, this is the most. And then, oh, this is the most. And they end up like circling everything. Maybe they could rank it. And so then we could just get a sense of what's top priority for them. But okay.
Yeah, and
that's, maybe we could say that for the more robust survey.
Yeah.
Thank you for the feedback. I think personally, I see that survey as a little bit of an icebreaker. So I've been actually amazed by the amount of responses we've had, meaning people filling the survey, because usually we're being inundated with surveys online and so on, that people usually just shy away. They come to a table if they see that they have to fill something. It is not highly likely that they'll want to do it. But I think one of the things with this one was the fact that it was short. And unfortunately, it's on a topic that is still ringing very true for so many people. You know, the summer is upon us. People are already worried about the heat waves. You know, some people are still dealing with the after effects of the drought and so on and so on. And it was interesting, something that I observed was how if we start by talking just about a climate action plan, it didn't seem to resonate with most people or families. But the moment they were able to talk about their personal lives and to see how, you know, an aspect of their lives has been impacted by climate change and see how the experience can actually inform the climate action plan process, then it was, people were more talkative. Something also I want to share since I want to thank first again the DUDEC team for all the work that has been done already so far. Thank you for the staff. The staff have been going above and beyond, volunteering their time on the weekend, signing up to go. I don't know how many events there have been already, but they've showed up big time. Something that has been, again, quick feedback here, something that has been also an icebreaker has been the stickers. People light up when they see that. And again, then they start asking questions and then they want to hear more. And I want to give a shout out to Yolo County kids. The kids, so we've been able to have, when we only had one event on the same day, we were able to have 2 tables, one table for kids, full of kids, activities, coloring, word games, and so on, mask and fun things. And the kids will see that and be drawn to the table and come, and then the parents will follow. And because the kids stay busy and they just literally decide to stay there and engage, the parents start speaking to us. So the kids have been amazing during the crowd. And Pelayo, I think it's also same thing happened to him when we did the event at Northern Valley Indian Health Fair. This is where we collected, I think in one day, close to 50 surveys. We spoke on that day alone, as far as I counted, to over 150 people just on the day alone. That's a gross estimate on me. It might have been more. But I mentioned it because something that was interesting for me were kids asking about climate action. They generally had questions about what was going on and so on. And then the last thing I want to mention to show that the emphasis on accessibility in the work that we do in language accessibility has made a huge difference. The first outreach event we had was in Knights Landing. My Spanish is ridiculous. I can just say a few things. Kristen, I'm so grateful that she's fluent. But we've had so many families engaging the moment we speak in their language, in their first language, and especially in this case in Spanish. The engagement to me has been amazing, and that can show in the surveys that I filled in Spanish. Same thing when I'm only speaking about the events I went to in Woodland at the Northern Valley Indian, again, Pelayo and Gretchen, but especially Pelayo having such a blast engaging with the families and again in Spanish. And so it's been very interesting to be able to have that bridge. And I think that it was validating for our residents. And yes, the survey that is coming, I'm pretty sure will have more information. Like the preliminary survey doesn't give us information on the demographic of the people answering. We don't know how old they are. We don't know much about their background. We just know the general concerns. But the data, I think, when it comes to, being more precise will come later. Kristen, did you want to add anything?
I was going to say that Commissioner Austin has her hand up.
Okay. Commissioner Austin, you have the floor.
Yeah, hi. I love all your updates, so thank you for that. I will echo, I don't want to jump the gun, but we are going to be talking a little bit about the new equity and engagement working group members. And it's great that we have a junior high, high school, and college student, which is awesome, really helping with that youth engagement perspective. Also, kudos to DUDEC for what they've been doing so far. And then a call to action for my fellow commissioners. Even if you're not on one of the working groups, I really encourage you to attend one or more if you can. As we've said, just you being present as someone who in many cases is identifiable as a community leader. And even if you're not, just having your presence and your community knowledge will really make a difference. So please make an effort to make note. I realize that many are during the day, but if you can come for an hour, that would be really valuable. I also want to thank you all for really coordinating. If you notice, we're trying to coordinate with existing events. That's excellent. And I wonder if Kristen, if you wanted to just briefly talk about 2 things. One, if you want to describe any of the kind of coordination efforts, it could also be a DUDEC response. And then second, I want to know more about the 2-way communication. So that's something that I've brought up in the working group. So as people are attending, completing forms, is there a way for them to engage, i.e., are they encouraged to attend these meetings? Are we seeing an uptick in social media followers? So talk a little bit about not just this one touch and then there's nothing else. What kind of follow-up is there?
Thanks so much, Bernadette. So to answer that second question, The last section of our survey is sort of well, two things. One, we have a question, would you like to engage in the CAP process? And if so, how? Folks have the option to receive text updates, email updates, follow us on social media, subscribe to our newsletter. And then it was sort of, would you like to know about workshops and things like that? So understanding a bit of the modes of communication that folks want to engage with. And so we have a really large number of phone numbers and email addresses for folks to be enrolled in the newsletter subscription and then to get push out. So as we move forward, all of the folks who provided a phone number will have a text link to the survey when it's available to our workshops and they're available, we'll be able to communicate. And I think building a text platform is something that'll be new for us, but that was one of the most selected modes of communication that folks wanted. So again, really helpful information to have as we move into this next step. And then in terms of communication, I'm happy to open the floor to Jane or anybody else from the DUDEC team. They've been doing a lot of work, reaching out to all of the chambers of commerce. And that's really what we're thinking about, school board meetings, the Yolo flood control district. It's what are meetings that are available? Can we come? Can we participate? At one of the Northern Valley Indian Health Fair, I believe, or one of our other Dia de los Niños events, Catholic Charities came over and was like, we would love to work with you on an event with one of the migrant housing centers. And so I think that as much as possible, we are going out and trying to find these connections and participate in existing meetings to try to cut down on that engagement fatigue. Jane or anyone else from the DUDEC team, is there anything else that you'd like to add on this question? Oh gosh, and I realize, hold on, I'm going to promote some of you to panelists just in case. And no pressure.
And just as you're doing that, thank you for that report back. That's great to hear. That's what I was wondering, is if people were even providing their contact information. And I'm not terribly surprised about the text. That's what we're hearing. It sort of transcends some of the socioeconomic demographics that I've worked with in the past. So great to hear it.
And I'm trying to promote Jane here.
Mhm.
All right, Jane, you should have permission.
There,
to talk now.
sorry about that. And thanks for the time to chat. And first of all, I don't know how your team is doing it. Kristen is either successfully cloned herself or she's sleep or something, but really hats off to the YCCAC and the staff and Kristen for just doing a tremendous amount of excellent outreach engagement and really communicating effectively with the folks at the tables. We're not there doing that. We're providing the background materials, but really just want to appreciate that. So just wanted to circle back on the survey and appreciate those comments related to sort of the brevity of it. And the goal with the sort of the brevity of that survey was really understanding we were at tabling events, mostly with parents and kids, and wanted to make sure that we were providing, an opportunity to get good feedback, but not overwhelming people and allowing them to slowly sort of engage in the process at their own pace, while also they have kids surrounding them and they're probably distracted. And so the larger survey that will come out before the workshop and really will dig in at the workshop will provide a lot deeper dive, not only the demographic information and zip code and things of that nature, but also, really kind of grappling with the issues that people are experiencing. So wanted to just a little bit of a preview there. We do have a presentation that we're going to make, and so if you have any direct questions, I'm happy to answer them now. Otherwise, we can certainly turn to our presentation too.
Thank you very much, Jane. Do you have any follow-up questions, or would you rather wait for agenda item 7 when DUDEC does a presentation? Commissioner Ullman?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. One of the issues for me is collaboration between various jurisdictions in the county, and I'm wondering if you're getting any questions. So you mentioned there were some questions regarding Davis's recent CAP process. Whether you're receiving any other questions regarding the fact that the carbon footprint of municipalities in the county is relatively significant in terms of traffic generation. This plays a role in terms of the long tail of agricultural product processing and transportation, things of that sort. So that's one question. And I think some of the other questions anticipated what I was going to ask about contacts and how many people were going to give their personal contact information. That's very gratifying. I have one quibble, and I'll go ahead and throw that out. You don't even have to respond to it. But I would say in the carbon sequestration slide, one of the call outs says carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere through natural processes like respiration, okay, forest fires, okay, and burning fossil fuels. And I would contend that fossil fuels are not a natural process, but that's just my opinion. So I think it's important. We touched on it earlier with regard to the Brown Act. The support of municipalities is important, and collaboration with municipalities and school districts. And City of Woodland has a few projects underway that I think are relevant, but I don't know that, where's the boundary here? And if someone comes up, and I will be there on Friday, and asks about that. We live in the city. We live in Woodland. Why should we care about what the county does unless they have a farm or something of that sort? So I guess that's but I think collaboration is extremely important, and that involves VCE and other actors here. But maybe that's way too rambling in general to be answered. But anyway.
Well, I mean, I can share some additional thoughts. And one comment that's in the staff report that I neglected to share during the presentation is that we also plan to do presentations at the, relevant or similar committees in each one of the jurisdictions so that we're having that cross collaboration as well. And I think it's going to be an ongoing process to figure out how we suss out and coordinate these things, because there's not a simple answer. And, what we've seen in some other CAP processes, some other surveys that are going on at the county level elsewhere, they'll have a map of the unincorporated versus incorporated and say, we only want you to fill out the survey if you live in the green shaded area. Thank you. And what we're seeing, some folks don't know that they live in the unincorporated versus incorporated area. If you live just outside of the city limits, your address might still say Woodland, even though you live in unincorporated Yolo County. And so I think it's something that we're going to have to continue working on the messaging for. I've mentioned this before. I work really closely with my counterparts in all of the jurisdictions. And this is something that we talk about, and we've yet to come up with a really clear answer. But I think that continued communication, making sure we're present and we have representation, I think, on every city's or almost every city's relevant committees and advisory boards. And so we're going to have to keep doing that. And then throughout the process of filling out the CAP, we're doing data requests from the cities. And sort of the way this came up in the conversation that I mentioned about somebody congratulating us on Davis's CAP. They were really interested, and their comments were very similar to that. And, they were looking at our infographic of everything, and none of the items on the infographic are really limited to jurisdictional boundaries. Everything that we are doing, these are countywide efforts. And so continuing to emphasize that we want to collaborate. We want to really address these things. It's not a patchwork. You don't have wildfires just in the unincorporated area. And that's messaging that really resonates with folks. And so we've not limited survey responses to the unincorporated county, obviously trying to target our outreach there as much as possible to make sure that those are the voices that are really centered in this process. But I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Mark, for asking. Commissioner Serena?
I just wanted to mention this graphic, the carbon sequestration. I think this is the first time we've seen it. Was it presented at the E&E?
I think we had not. We were trying to limit review fatigue in our first meeting.
Yeah, I when I seen it, I was like, this is a new graphic. But I also agree, good catch, Commissioner Allman, that fossil fuel should be broken out of that bubble and put into a separate bubble just because it is one of our biggest sources of greenhouse gas emissions. And maybe that should be highlighted, you know, that not in any way like to guilt anyone who drives a car, but just to say like, this is, you know, we've identified this as one of our greenhouse gas, you know, offenders. But yeah, I wanted to just say thank you also just for all the hard work, the tabling, and just kind of that face-to-face is super important for that community trust building, because they are going to see these graphics and logos on an ongoing basis. And so I would just wanted to, you know, one, just thank the staff, the DUDEC team for the work on these graphics, but really also just taking into consideration some of, you know, the input from our different groups and really incorporating it, because I do see it here. I do see it. I'm like, yes. But yeah, would love to see that, you know, kind of pulled out of that bubble.
Thanks for that comment. We can work with the DUDEC graphic designers to amend that.
Thank you. Just also want to quickly follow up. We're going to close on this topic because you have many more items to discuss. But to answer Commissioner Allman, I did have, when I was in Woodland, the Northern Valley Indian Health Fair, someone did ask about collaboration and reaching out to other institutions. And so we did talk about that. And also to give you a quick update, I haven't had a chance to speak with Kristen on that, but last week, I think it was Thursday or Wednesday evening, but someone from Health and Human Services reached out to me because they have like a bi-weekly meeting with different other services on something they call a cultural competency committee. And so surprising, I mean, I don't know if it's big of a surprise because that's the second time we get that request. They asked me on a short notice, but if I could give just an update on what the Climate Action Commission had done so far. And they wanted also specifically to see how the work of the commission, you know, linked to the different services within the county. So just letting you know that as we're doing this work, staff from other departments are actually also paying attention. They're following and they're asking questions, and they want to do, you know, they want to play a role, they want to do their part. So I'm hoping that how can I say, opens the door for you to want to hear more on that in the future. Okay, thank you, Kristen. Do you have any public comments on that?
We have 2 public comments. The first hand up is Christine Shoemaker.
Thank you, Kristen. You have the floor. You have 3 minutes.
So thank you very much for this, and I want to definitely thank staff, and I want to echo whose ever comment it was whether Kristen Wraithwell has cloned herself. The amount of work that's come out is just absolutely amazing. The other question I want to have is, it kind of revolves around we have the first survey, but when, given in what time frame do we think we're going to have the full survey that we want to send around, you know, to our organizations, to other people's organizations? Is that a month, 2 months, 3 months? Because I'm understanding from listening to this is now is not the time. You don't want a bunch of people sending out this draft survey. You want us to wait. You want people to wait. What would be your guess on the time frame?
Thanks, Christine. I can, oh, sorry. Sorry, double monitor here and accidentally created an echo chamber. I can get confirmation from Jane. I believe we're hoping to get a draft of the survey to the Equity and Engagement TAC for the May meeting, and then bringing a full version to the commission in May, so that we can have a final version of that survey before our first workshop in June.
This
Thank
is
you,
Jane.
Christine.
And
You said you had
Thank
a
you.
second question.
sorry, that's the correct timeline. And again, just to be clear that it's not a draft survey, the one that's being circulated right now. It is the preliminary survey, just understanding that we're tabling. we have some time constraints as it relates to some of the tabling events, and really want to create some dialogue and awareness before we have a full, longer version of that survey. But we will certainly have one for the E&E TAC in a draft form, and would like to get the full one out at the end of May before the public workshop. And that's, again, the larger, more detailed survey that we will also be discussing at the workshop.
Thank you, Jane. And Christian, if you're still here, I think you mentioned you had 2 questions. You have 1 minute left on your time. We usually don't break down the public comments, but making an exception.
Actually, that was it. It was one comment thanking Kristen, and then my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we are ready for the second public comment.
The second public comment is Scott Stewart.
Scott, thank you for joining us. Please feel free to introduce yourself and state any affiliation you'd like to share with us. We are listening. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, this is Scott Stewart. Thanks so much for the time. I come from Yolo Climate Emergency Coalition, also Indivisible Yolo Climate Action Team. I just wanted to comment that in the survey, which is being perceived by all recipients of city and county areas, that this is an indication that perhaps the commission would consider the floating of joint powers for the county with the various municipality leaders as they go about attracting a lot of attention, particularly, for example, the boundaryless format of Whole Earth Day, I think, or rather Whole Earth Festival. So that's something to consider. I just think that it's ripe. And, you know, CO2 does not know city boundaries or county boundaries. And so I do think it's going to require at some point that reality of joint powers for a region to consider how to address things like transportation and built environment. On those 2 main categories of greenhouse gas generation, transportation and built environment, Davis recently went through its own exercise of CAP after having figured out the 2 main contributors, transportation being 70% of the footprint and built environment being about 25 or 20-ish. The point is, built environment was the only quantifiable way in which Davis could begin to measurably move forward its greenhouse gas footprint. And because of the dialogue that was so generalized in the survey, people felt like they had to re-understand the electrification necessity of built environment. There was enough opposition for the city council to reject a mandate for buildings to become electrified upon transition or of equipment, of appliances, and or the building itself, because they couldn't get consensus because the public was confused about the science because of the way the survey was conducted. I just have that caution for you to consider, because the science is the science. We need to stop using fossil fuel. It's not a debate. So with those 2 things, I just want to compliment the work that's being done. It's really great. And thank you for the time.
Thank you, Scott, for your comment. I would like to encourage you, if you don't mind, to reach out offline to sustainability@yolo.org. If you don't mind elaborating on the joining forces. And you mentioned an example during Whole Earth Festival, but I was wondering if you're referring to events, workshops, and so on. And I just wanted to hear a bit more, but so please send an email if you're able. Do we have any additional public comments?
We do. We have Chris Granger with Cole Davis.
Chris, thank you for joining us. You have 3 minutes.
Hi there, everyone. I'm Chris Granger with Cole Davis. I'm really, really excited to see the quality of work that's happening, and am actually, because we've been doing a lot of work for many years as Cole Davis, doing outreach work, I'm just impressed with the amount of events you've been able to attend in the last month. And all the right kind of events, really reaching people where they're at. And I'm also excited to see all the in-language materials. And what I see are some materials that are going to be able to use not just throughout this process, but after this process and in implementation. So I'd really encourage you folks to really, and the subcommittee for the commission to really attend to that as you're creating things, because this is a unique amount of resources you have right now for this, to how they can be used in the future, and to do really good tracking of data right now, because that will become fodder for future grants, for getting adequate resources for doing this kind of outreach and communications for implementation as well. So congratulations on this like first foray into everything, and I'm just so excited to see this move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, for your comment. Any additional public comment?
No additional public comment at this time.
Okay, so I thank you all for this robust discussion. Thank you for the feedback. And again, thank you for everyone involved for all the work you've done in it, including the equity and engagement. I can't say working group anymore, so TAC. So this is, we're closing on agenda item number 6. We're now moving to number 7. We are listening to an update from the DUDEC team on climate action and adaptation plan workshops and greenhouse gas inventory progress. Jane, you have the floor. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you. I'm going to pull up the presentation, and I'm going to initially turn this over to Michael Hendricks so he can provide you an update on the work that is happening, with the GHG inventory. And I don't see him online right now. I don't know if someone is able to promote him.
Yep, that's sorry. That's my, I'm going to promote the team now. Apologies.
No, no worries. Thank you.
Michael has been promoted.
All right, good evening. This is Michael Hendricks. And just to give you an update, we've been working on the inventory the last couple of months. The municipal inventory, which encompasses the facilities and fleets that the county owns and operates, has been a focus. We've developed a inventory calculation worksheet for that. And we do have some fleet information. We're gathering more information from county staff to populate that inventory. The purpose of that inventory is to really baseline the emissions that the county operations is doing. And as progress goes and reductions are made, be able to track that. On the community-wide sector-based inventory, this inventory is the entire community of unincorporated Yolo County, and is sector-based: transportation, building energy, water, waste, those kinds of sectors. That inventory, the purpose of it is to really track with and complement what the state is doing. So the sectors are aligned with what the state is doing, and we're aligned to complement those reduction measures as we develop them, that the state has, be able to complement them on the local end to really make things efficient as a reduction plan. So we have data requests to the utilities, which needs to be done early. The utilities take a while to get us back information. We also have some VMT data for the community, and we're looking through that VMT. I have to say, I am never satisfied with the granularity of VMT, so I'm always going back to the transportation engineers and trying to tease out like farm workers versus utility workers and that kind of thing, and where this VMT is coming from. On the consumption-based inventory narrative, a consumption-based inventory is really radically different than the other two inventories. The other two inventories are very sector-based. The consumption-based inventory is really meant for a household or a person to take stock of what they're doing and what their activities are and what the carbon is involved in that. And I'm glad to say that we have drafted a Yolo County specific consumption-based inventory. And if you don't mind moving to the next slide, I'll share that with you. So in a pie chart format, this is what the inventory is for a typical Yolo County household. Notice housing is significantly lower than what you'd see in the US average. And a lot of that has to do with the electricity that is being consumed. It's very low emission electricity. Transportation is a tiny bit higher. Food, goods, and services, those on a strictly emissions-based are typical of a household anywhere in the United States. But the percentages are going to be a little different because, like I say, the housing here is much more efficient on energy because not only are houses getting more efficient, but they're also, the electricity you're using is much, much lower. So to give you some context on a consumption-based inventory, the graph on the right kind of shows you that white circle is would encompass the consumption-based inventory. That beigeish color in the center or inside of it is your typical community-wide inventory that's sector-based. So obviously there's a lot more that goes into a consumption-based inventory than just the emission sources that are within the county or the county has direct or indirect control over. And to get into that a little bit, if you don't mind going to the next slide, this is a breakdown of each of the I don't want to call them sectors, but divisions of the consumption-based inventory. And you notice transportation, the majority of it is fuel. That's gasoline and diesel. There's a little bit of indirect emissions associated with fuel production, manufacturing and repair, and a tiny bit of air travel. So these emissions are very much what you'd call a, they have embedded carbon in the entire issue of transportation. It looks into the manufacturing of the car as one portion of the emissions. Housing, you'll notice, is really small. The largest portion of it is electricity, but your electricity use, the emissions associated with it is tiny. So that is why it's looking the way it is. Natural gas is also within the housing component. Construction waste and energy indirect are various energy inputs, such as the energy embedded in water that is used in the household, things like that. And you'll notice food at 21%. This is very typical of a household anywhere in the United States. Meat, it has the most embedded emissions in it, followed by other food, which is just a variety of things. And then dairy and cereal. Notice fruits and vegetables have the least amount of carbon within them. Our goods are at 12%. Goods are all of the things, including the furniture that's inside your home, the things you order at Amazon, the clothes you wear, that kind of thing. And then services, in comparison to the US average, our amount of services or emissions associated with services are pretty high. And that just has to do with the fact that we have a lot more services we use. To compare that, I'm gonna go to the next slide. This is a US average, and you'll notice that the average metric tons at 49.8 per household in the United States is roughly 10 metric tons higher than what Yolo County is on average. So keep that in mind. Transportation is roughly the same, but you notice housing in Yolo County was 12%. US average is 26%. And a lot of that has to do with the embedded carbon in the use of electricity, and also just the fuels that are used, natural gas, and then other heating mechanisms that are average throughout the US. Food is the same for Yolo County as it is for the US average. You'll notice the percentage is a little different because the US household has higher emissions overall. And then goods, the one I pointed out before, was 20% in Yolo County, or excuse me, services was 12%. As a US average, it was 20% in Yolo County. So those are some of the differences that we're going to be looking at. What we're going to do with the consumption-based inventory is create a narrative that really focuses on individuals reading the climate action plan, what they can do to reduce their carbon footprint. And that is really the functionality of a consumption-based inventory, is to get individuals and households aware of where their carbon is coming from and what they can do to reduce it. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Jane.
Thank you, Mike. Really appreciate it. Thanks for joining us this evening. And I'm just going to give a quick run through of the communication and engagement plan and equity and engagement strategy. I'm going to stay off camera just because my internet is a little bit not great right now. So really quickly, Kristen gave an excellent summary. We have lots of events behind us, many more moving forward. We're also doing agency interviews, community-based organizations and community-based partners. These are the organizations and the sectors, and we have continued to schedule them, so we have more to report out on. Really quickly, the TAC is reviewing draft request proposals for CBOs and CVPs for paid internships. And we are looking to organize the first in-person large countywide workshop the week of June 12th or June 19th. Locations that we're considering are branches of libraries, Veterans Hall, community centers. These will be in person only. And we'll certainly be checking in with the E&E TAC on all of this. High-level agenda is attached. Really don't want to go into too much detail here, as we have a lot more to suss through with the E&E folks. And given the timeline, I am going to turn it back over to Kristen. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Jane and Michael. And yeah, just to add that the agenda, we'll be discussing the agenda structure, all of the workshop pieces with the E&E TAC. And so I know we are behind schedule. And so we'll come back to that after we've had a discussion with the E&E TAC.
Yes, Commissioner Serena.
Just a quick question. The slide deck that DUDEC used, is that, do we have access to that?
That wasn't included in the packet. So that will be included, and we'll be circulating that and added into the full packet before it goes online.
Thank you.
Can you specify it will be added to which packet, for the EE TAC or for the commission?
It'll be added to the commission packet that's posted on the website.
Okay.
So yeah, just for Brown Act purposes, presentations do not need to be shared ahead of time. Best practice, we just had a lot to try to compile for this month's meeting, so it didn't quite make it, but it'll be on the final version online.
Thank you. Would you mind giving us a timeline for that? When is that online usually?
It's usually, it's already posted online, so we'll just have to amend it. This presentation isn't included online. We'll amend it in the next day.
Okay. Thank you very much, Commissioner Britton.
Yeah, that was a very clear presentation. Thank you. Couple questions for Michael or Jane. The first would be, I'm a little startled by the low numbers on transportation. That's a lot lower than our last inventory was. And I'm sort of curious about why that is. If you have any insights on that. because the distances are so long in this county and a lot of people do intercity travel. And it seems like that maybe there's an accounting thing there that some of that's going into municipal carbon usage and not into the unincorporated parts that are directly in the inventory. I'm just so curious about the details. And then more generally, is there any chance for us to look into the inner workings of these models, the calculations? There's obviously not time at these meetings, but is there any mechanism by which geeks like me could look in under the hood of the models that are being used for these calculations? Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that question. This is Jane. I don't think that Michael is with us. Michael Hendricks is with us any longer. So I really don't want to get outside of my comfort zone and extrapolate on something that's not my specific issue area. So I don't want to delve into the discussion on transportation. I'm happy to provide you with the information that we're using, and I'm happy to ask Michael to follow up in email. You can certainly take a look at any of the modeling that we are doing, and we can provide you a summary in an email or in a tech memo. All of this information is going to undergird the CAP, and we will have reference to it in the final CAP, but we will be preparing technical memos along the way, and happy to share those with the commission at any time.
Thank you. Can clarifying question, when you referenced the last inventory, when was that?
Wasn't that the update when 2015, 16, something like that?
Okay.
I believe was the last county. I'm not, time is not my favorite dimension. So if anyone can help me with that.
I
but
think that's
something
what
like
I remember too. Yeah. Thank you. I just wanted to have an idea. Commissioner Kim?
Yes. Also, I guess a question that Jane, you can ask to Michael. Very interesting presentation. First was, it was great to hear that Yolo County is lower in housing. Interesting that we're higher than national average in services. Is there a sense, maybe Michael does know, like of which service sector is just the most significant GHG, producer? So that's like one kind of question. And then second question was, I'm assuming like when I saw food, I saw like, dairy and all of that, that included, does that account? I know this is consumption based, so maybe this is not accounting for like ag. And so maybe ag is part of the other sector GHG production, but just wanted to get that clarification as well.
Yeah, so again, don't want to get out of bounds, and I will defer to Michael Hendricks to answer those questions and get those in a written format to the commission.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Any further questions, comment, feedback? Do we have any public comments on that?
This is Richie McCann. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, thank you for
Yes.
joining us. You have 3 minutes. Please state, feel free to state any affiliation you'd like us to hear. Or
Well,
you are with the DUDEC team. Never mind the 3 minutes. Thanks for joining us, Richard.
Sure. As you probably know, I'm on the consulting team doing the economics work. And there was a question, and there appears to be a little bit of confusion about the difference in the consumption inventory versus the direct emissions inventory. That is the traditional method of doing these kinds of inventories and how they're presented for the climate action plan. A direct emission inventory involves the actual emissions from actions that can be measured within the county. So driving your car, what comes out of the tailpipe, or turning on the electricity, what is coming out of the natural gas power plant that is coming out of its smokestack. What Michael presented is a consumption-based inventory, which involves all of the processes beyond those direct tailpipe emissions. So, for example, what emissions are emitted in producing oil and then transporting it by tanker from another country, the United States, and what emissions are then produced from the refinery. And so that kind of consumption inventory actually doesn't relate back to a particular business or a particular action in that way. It actually goes back to a household. And so you will not see the emissions by sector. Those emissions are what the households in Yolo County are creating by emissions. So you have, for example, the emissions when you buy clothing, what kind of emissions are coming from production of that clothing. And then, it's a much broader net that's being tossed. And that's why transportation is much smaller, because for transportation, most of the emissions are dominated by tailpipe emissions. But for consumption goods like clothing, new furniture, those emissions aren't even accounted for at all in the direct emissions, but then they are introduced in the consumption-based inventory, which is what's presented here. So the transportation slice shrinks substantially because there are many other emissions that are associated with producing food or producing furniture or producing clothing. And even in the case of air travel is outside of the county's traditional conventional inventory, but it's included in the consumption inventory. So that's when you're looking at the 2016 inventory, you cannot compare it to what's in this consumption inventory that's being presented here. There are some updates to the direct emission inventory, and those inventories, the direct emission inventory, which is really used for regulatory purposes in creating climate action plans. The consumption inventory is an add-on it's not even clear how those are to be incorporated in climate action plans because they're relatively. So with that, I just wanted to make that clarifying answer so that you're not too confused about the two types of inventories that are being presented. Thank you.
Richard, thank you very much for clarifying. I do have a follow-up question regarding the consumption-based inventory. When it comes to services, does that include services like, let's say, Amazon delivery, DoorDash, and so on for household?
It should include those things. Although in many cases, so that type of service, the emission for that's actually included in the direct inventory as well, because Amazon owns trucks that are running around inside Yolo County and may be based in Yolo County, for example, in West Sacramento. So, so that's those emissions will show up in both cases. It's just when you're in services, then the emission that was being assigned to Amazon in the direct inventory are then transferred to the households in the consumption inventory.
Thank you, Richard. Yes, Commissioner Britton.
Yeah, that was very clear. Thank you very much. That was exactly the answer, I think, to my question. Let me just follow up with one quick one, which is, I think I heard you say then that the transportation sector would be a fully included subset of the, in other words, in the consumption inventory, all the transportation tons would already be there in the direct inventory. Are there any other transportation contributors in the consumption base that would end up in that component in the transportation bar on that graph? Was that clear? Thanks.
I believe that if I'm answering your question correctly, the transportation that is outside of Yolo County gets rolled into the consumption inventory.
Okay.
So for example, if you're flying out of Sacramento, Sacramento Airport, that becomes a consumption emission, but we don't account for air travel, air emissions from a Southwest jet taking off from Sacramento Airport.
Roger that. That makes a lot of sense. Great. And last one is, how do we account for vehicles going by on I-5 and I-80 that might just be passing through the county? Are those even considered in either type of inventory?
That's a more complicated question, and actually, I'm not even sure Michael can give you the clear answer on that. Maybe Fair and Pure may give you the best answer on that. That's a more technical question about how those emissions are allocated on the travel on the 113.
Yeah, the reason
I-80 and I-5. Those emissions typically are not included in the inventory because they don't, except for if they begin or end in the county. So
And
pass
why-
through. So somebody going from San Francisco to Tahoe, those emissions are not typically included in the county.
Great. And the only way it kind of matters to the county is that decisions about infrastructure for transportation might influence those tons, even if we aren't seeing them on our spreadsheet, which, like the expansion of Highway 80 is presumably going to increase travel through the county. All right, thank you very much. That's great.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Richard. Do we have any public comment, Kristen?
I don't see any public comment at this time. I did receive something through the question submission that I'll read aloud for public record. And then if the name submitted is LT, if they would like to email sustainability@yolocounty.org with any follow-up, that would be great. The comment is, has anyone brought up any issues with VCE? They had an automatic opt-in for their PG&E clean energy program, and I opted out and they started charging me on my bill again. There have been several issues with the auto opt-in, and the county needs to address that immediately and pay back all the families they overcharged or don't want to be in the program and don't know how to opt out. If you want to email sustainability@yolocounty.org, and we'd be happy to coordinate with you and try to help connect you to the folks at VCE who might be able to help address that.
Thank you for that question, public comment. So I'm going to close the discussion on this agenda item. So we're closing on agenda item number 7. We are moving on to agenda item number 8. We're going to have TAC updates, so our technical advisory committees updates. Also want to mention that we've had a record high 20 people joining online. We're now down to 17, and there are about 11 of us in person. So that's in terms of engagement, I think that's pretty good. So agenda item number 8. So we're going to start with the equity and engagement technical advisory group. I would like to suggest, so that we make the best use of our time, that we listen to the EE TAC. And then if it's okay with you, write down the questions you have, but don't ask them yet. Listen to Natural and Working Lands TAC. And then when we've heard both updates, we ask questions. And I think that would be a good use of our time. Yes, thank you.
Should I go to the podium for this here?
You don't have to, and I can do a screen share. Just give me 1 second.
All right. Well, thank you. So one thing is that we're ecstatic to announce our newest members of our Equity and Engagement TAC. And we had our very first fully engaged TAC, I think it was last week. And everyone that went through the interview process and was selected was present. And I'm just so happy to be at this stage because we went through a lot of interviews. Yeah, I'm gonna talk a little bit about our selection process. Just quick to share some context. We developed an E&E TAC application that was up on the website. We also advertised through different outlets, the library. They were in both English and Spanish. And again, these were part of some of our recruitment materials shared through flyers, through our website, through the Yolo County branch libraries, and of course our social media. This was a huge push for our engagement, equity and engagement working group. And we're ecstatic to say that we have recruited additional members of our TAC that represent all 5 districts. So yay. Yes, snaps. Moving on to next slide. You all, these faces look familiar, I'm sure. You know who we are. So just really quick, myself, Adelita Serena, I am currently chairing the Equity and Engagement TAC. As you all know, Commissioner Austin is our Equity and Engagement TAC Vice Chair. And of course, our Commissioner Reed is one of our TAC Equity and Engagement TAC members as well. So we were the core along with Kristen and, other county staffers that are, some of us are here, Gretchen and Julia. Julia might be joining us online. I just wanted to mention they were a huge support in this process as well. Again, we conducted interviews. It was a grueling schedule and I'm just so happy we're past that. And I just want to mention that, we kind of have an open door right now in case there's any voices that might be missing from our effort. We're kind of keeping an eye out just in case someone is interested in being included that currently doesn't reflect an area that, we have engaged right now. So we have mentioned that and I just wanted to mention it again. Yes, moving on to some of our newest members. So ecstatic that we have some wonderful youth joining us in our equity and engagement effort. I'm going to go ahead and go over their bios, starting with Izzy Chan de Silva, who is a 7th grader at Da Vinci Junior High and is eager for opportunities to improve her community and to help those in need around her. Lately, she has realized how much climate change is affecting the world and feels that there are many unnecessary contributors that can be mitigated through climate action. Izzy hopes to leverage her role as an E&E TAC member to encourage others around her and make the world a better place. She is also on the Yolo Youth Commission and hopes to bring climate opportunities to her youth peers and broader community. Izzy enjoys soccer, graphic design, and science. Moving to Zainab Wakar, who is a member of our Equity and Engagement TAC, is an international student from Pakistan. She has spent almost 2 years in Davis, California, and is currently secretary of the Yolo Youth Commission. Zainab attends Davis Senior High School and loves to explore and express herself through the art medium of painting and sketching. She also has an interest in history, current affairs, and loves to volunteer and understands how to make a better place for future generations and ourselves. We have a spot for the Commission on Aging and Adult Services Liaison that is going to be filled soon. And so moving on to more of our wonderful members of the Equity and Engagement TAC. Antonio de Loera Brest was raised in Davis, California, attending Cesar Chavez Elementary, Harper Junior High, and Davis High School. He currently works as communications director for the United Farm Workers Labor Union. He has previously worked in both local and federal government, including as a Latino outreach specialist for Yolo County's COVID-19 response, during which time he helped plan and execute Yolo County's successful farm worker vaccination campaign. He has also worked on the Julian Castro and Elizabeth Warren 2020 presidential campaigns and as a staffer in the U.S. House of Representatives covering immigration, agriculture, and foreign policy. He studied film production and Chicano studies at Loyola Marymount University in Los Angeles, graduating in 2017. He has lived in both Davis and West Sacramento and worked in every Yolo County community, particularly at the Madison Migrant Center, where he ran the after-school program for migrant farm worker children from 2013 to 2017 on behalf of the Yolo Interfaith Immigration Network. In his free time, he enjoys eating tacos and watching old movies. Miran Gebre is a second-year student at UC Davis studying political science and public service. She's interested in environmental justice and policy and served on the Equity and Engagement Working Group for Oakland's Equitable Climate Action Plan. She is excited to bring this experience to our TAC and to learn more about climate action in Yolo County. The E&E TAC is looking to round out its membership by recruiting paid CBO outreach partners to facilitate community events and engage the communities they're serving throughout the county. So that is an effort that is currently underway. And we have been, again, drafting language that is going out to CBOs. And there's already been a round of emails that have gone out, and we have more that we're going to be sending. So that was exciting for me, guys. I'm just saying, I'm ecstatic that we have these additional TAC members. And again, it was a process that I think that we did our best on at this point. And again, there is an open door, slightly ajar for any voices that maybe are not currently represented on our TAC working or our team. And that's what I have today.
I know you spent so many hours interviewing people and then also drafting the documents that we've been using for community engagement. I really want to thank you all for that.
Absolutely. Couldn't have done it without our wonderful team members. Again, Commissioner Reed, Commissioner Austin, Kristen, Gretchen, and Julia, who I believe is online. Yes, it's been an ongoing process, drafting language, looking at what we're sending out to the community, putting the schedule, recommendations for outreach events. And, we're chipping away at this effort, and, we're happy to be where we're at right now, but much more work to be done.
Thank you for centering equity in all of the work we're doing. I want to ask Commissioner Austin and Commissioner Reed if there's anything you'd like to add to the update we received.
No, she did a perfect job.
Okay.
Yeah, ditto. I'm super excited about the members of this TAC.
Wonderful, thank you. So I think we're ready to listen to the natural and working lands TAC update. Who will be the spokesperson? Is that
It will be me
Vice
and
Chair.
Heather, and I'm just promoting them right now.
Okay, thank you. Please refer to attachment L and M for the NWL TAC. I like the acronym.
And Kate and Heather, were you able to share your screen, or would you like me to share the slides?
Hi, Kristen. Yes, if you could share slides, that would be great.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Thank you. So while she's getting that up on the screen, just reintroduce myself. Can you see and hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So I'm Heather Nichols with the Yolo County Resource Conservation District. I'm the executive director there, and working with Kate Reza, who's our program manager. And we are liaising the Natural and Working Lands Technical Advisory Committee. We're really excited to do that. We have a few things to share here. Let's see. Should I be seeing the presentation at this point, Kristen? Let's see.
Sorry, everyone.
It kind of does an automatic. It happened.
1 second. Hi, Heather, can you hear us?
I can.
Okay, give me 1 second. At 6 p.m., all of the equipment hard shuts off. So we lost you for a second there, but if you could go back to the beginning of your introduction, that would be greatly appreciated.
Okay. Okay. So I am here to Kate and I are here to give you an update on the Natural and Working Lands Group. And I'm looking for I think I'm starting off with the presentation, which I don't.
Here, I'm just pulling up screen share right now.
I will be relying on to give this to you. Okay, so I want to make sure I stick to what I'm here to talk about. And we'll be introduced.
Sorry, Heather, to interrupt you, but I've tried to share my screen and my computer says it is sharing. So can people see that or not?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, we're both sharing. All right, you can go ahead and share and I will stop my screen share.
Cool, thanks, Kate.
Okay, yeah, let me know when you want it advanced, Heather.
Okay, and can you put it on like slide show? It's showing. There we go. Cool. All right. Okay. So we're here to introduce the Natural and Working Lands Technical Advisory Committee. We'll just go to the next slide there. Okay. So we've introduced ourselves a few times, but just to do that one more time, I'm Heather Nichols with Yolo County Resource Conservation District, here with Kate Reza, who is a program manager at the Resource Conservation District 2. And we are working with the Yolo County Climate Action Commission representatives and county staff on the Technical Advisory Committee. Now with a full membership of agricultural representatives. So the first few meetings, we decided as the committee to recruit in 4 different categories, which represent sort of the breadth and depth of ag in the county. And here you can see we have representatives from conventional large-scale farming operations, small-scale farming operations, ranching operation, and a representative from the farm worker community, or an organization that directly represents and serves farm workers. So we have, over the last few months, through our own relationships we've built over many decades with ag working in conservation, working closely with the Yolo County Farm Bureau, and various other organizations that are interfacing with agriculture, making phone calls and talking with folks about who would be interested and able to join in this process and be good candidates for being part of these discussions. So we didn't have a application process like the equity group, but we did go through a lot of relationships in the ag community to come to our membership. So next slide, please, Kate. And show you, I think this is, oh, that's us. So we've already met us. Okay, next slide. Oh, and then just to show who's, just to remind folks of who's representing on this technical advisory committee: Palayo and Alvarez and Micah Bennett, Andrew Kim and Sarah Morgan. Next slide. And then wanted to spend a little more time on sharing who our agricultural community representatives and partners are. So through the process of a lot of conversation and list sharing and cross-checking, we have several different folks now, 5, 6 different people. And first we have Humberto Izquierdo, who's the Yolo County Agriculture Commissioner. Humberto is well respected in the ag community. He's been working, I don't have bios and I apologize for that, but he's been working with the agricultural community in Yolo County and also Napa County previous, but is from Yolo County for many years. So he understands not only a lot of the issues in the agricultural economy and community, but he also very much understands where the county can engage and where they cannot. So that's been really helpful to have him in the technical advisory committee meetings to date. And next to him in the pictures there is Neil Muller. He's with M3 Ranches. He's the son of Frank Muller. This is a family farming. There are several Mullers in the county, and what I got talking with Neil, who's 4th or 5th generation farmer, is just a firsthand experience in working in many scales of farming. They work a lot with small farmers. Their farm is, they work in all kinds of crop types in the county. And Neil in particular, his background is in agricultural engineering. And he's very interested in this discussion. We've had 2 working group meetings to date, and he has a lot of very specific feedback to give us. So that's Neil. Next to Neil is Denise Segura. She's the executive director of the Yolo County Farm Bureau. The Farm Bureau represents agriculture on the political, it's in the political realm and also in the regulatory realm. And Denise has been very involved in making sure that ag has a voice. So she has given me a lot of advice on how to make the meetings more accessible. She's reviewed, potential lists and things, and just also given a lot of really valuable information and feedback so far. Denise has been the executive director for as long as I've been in the county. And I know at least 15 years, if not longer. And it works with almost everyone who irrigates land in the county. And Adrian Solis, who is not pictured here, is with Rise Incorporated, and then works a lot in the Cape Valley, I believe, and working with farm worker and trusts. He's been attending and providing input there. And then Scott Stone with Yolo Land and Cattle has been cattle ranching. He's a 2nd generation rancher and has a large ranch who hosted our first kickoff meeting just north of Winters or just south of Esparto, however you want to look at that. Scott's been doing a lot of conservation and carbon and climate related practices on his ranch for many years. So he's at the forefront of carbon sequestration and what can happen on ranch land around here. So it's really great to have him on board and get his perspective. And then Eric Wilson, who works for Rominger Brothers, and the Rominger Brothers Farms is an award-winning, Aldo Leopold award-winning farm here in Yolo County that has done a lot with all kinds of conservation issues on both ranches and ranching and farm and all different crop types in Yolo County. Eric's on our board at the Yolo RCD, so he's very familiar with a lot of the conservation practices, which in the climate action planning we're calling strategies. So actually all 3 of our 2 farmers and our rancher are very familiar with a lot of the strategies that are in the strategies draft and can give us really good feedback on which ones are most feasible, some of the things that only a farmer would know. So we're meeting now at Center for Land-Based Learning in Woodland, and they are giving us their conference space. I want to thank them. It's hybrid so that folks can attend in person or from a tractor or a truck or their homes. So it's been, I think it's working pretty well. Our last meeting was very productive. Kate will give you an update on all of that, and I will turn it over to Kate.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Kate Reza, and we've met before a few times. So I'm giving you an update on what happened at since our last update, and that is we had a meeting of the Natural and Working Lands TAC at the Center for Land-Based Learning's Maples Conference Center. And at that meeting, the TAC looked over the Natural and Working Lands survey questions, reviewed those, approved them, and the pending a few changes that were made during the meeting. And the survey distribution is scheduled to start in May. The group also reviewed the carbon sequestration and emissions reduction strategies, and all the substantive content has been discussed, revised a few times, and the final draft is being developed. And then finally, the last thing that the group discussed was outreach strategy. And the first part of the discussion was about the outreach structure, which consists of one-on-one interviews, a limited number of one-on-one interviews of producers. The second prong of the outreach structure is attending meetings, giving presentations at different groups gatherings, and tabling at different events. And the third is electronic survey distribution. And the group also talked about specific outreach opportunities, including specific events and specific groups to outreach to, including commodity groups like cattlemen's associations or rice growers association, or trade associations also. So that's pretty much what we did. If anyone on the commission would like to add in, I'd certainly appreciate your help. Or Heather, if you have anything to add, please do. Or Kristen or Gretchen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kate and Heather, for this presentation. It's really great to hear from you. I also want to thank you because you've been attending the commission's meeting, I think, since its inception, even before this TAC existed. So very grateful. I'm turning to my fellow commissioners first, Micah or Commissioner Kim. I don't know if Sarah Morgan is with us online. Is there anything you'd like to add? Commissioner Kim or Micah?
Nothing to add, just the meetings have been very, very productive. So happy to be a part of it.
Thank you.
And I can concur with that. They've been very interesting, and to be having farmers to be able to discuss this with has been so insightful.
Thank you. That was Commissioner Bennett. I also want to point out when the commission was created early on, we expressed that we wanted to center our local farmers' voices. And I'm just very excited to hear that this is the case with the Natural and Working Land Commission even. So Kristen or Gretchen, would you like to add anything? Okay, so with that, I'm opening the floor to questions regarding both updates. Any feedback, comment, updates on, yes, Commissioner Britton.
Yeah, that was really interesting and sounds like great progress. So really pleased by that. It's a big thing you guys are doing and hard work and so yeah. Question, I'm not sure where it would fall into the outreach for the working lands. There's a fair number of representatives of large ag corporations, sort of service corporations that do either research or seed production or something like that, which didn't really seem to fit either in as a conventional farm or as a a ranch or anything like that. And I'm wondering whether there's outreach to those folk and whether that would be useful and how it fits into your plans. Thank you.
Yeah, Heather, I was going to say, is there anything that you want to add there? I know this is something that has come up somewhat, but we haven't quite. Anyway, I'll leave it to you to add any thoughts.
I hope I have. I don't know what kind of answer. Let's see. I mean, are we talking about local seed producers? Or
I was thinking more
or-
like local subsidiaries of big ag corporations that are transnational. I'm not sure there's much that this commission can do to influence the actions of those organizations, but it
I
seems
see.
like maybe we could. There's a wedge there that we could use perhaps.
We are, well, at the base of our discussion, so far, and I think within the wheelhouse of the working group is around those strategies that are very, soil-based, land-based, and then the emissions reductions from equipment. And someone save me here, like maybe someone from DUDEC, but when it gets into industry, we venture into, I'm kind of hoping somebody from DUDEC can describe how, these land-based practices and how they differ from the industry practices that
I wonder if this is a conversation for Michael Hendricks as well. I think we're talking about how do we engage with industry throughout this process. And I think it's something that we can think about and bring back to our internal team discussion to figure out where it might fit most appropriately into this process.
Yeah, I think just narrowing it down that in that category of operators in the county, that seems like a category that maybe should just be included and thought through. Great, thank you.
Commissioner Kim?
Yes, just to add to that, I think what I'm hearing from Commissioner Britton is there is industry that's focused on, just supporting ag. So like ag support services. And so, for example, I'm thinking of like Mana Ranch, like they don't have any land here in Yolo County, but they're a major farm contractor and farm management company that does a lot of farming for other, landlords. And so like maybe groups like that as well, because I know they bring their machinery across. I think they're based out of Lodi, but they do a lot of farming here. So that could be, is that what you were referring to?
Kind of thing. And Monsanto has a shop here in Woodland.
Okay, yeah,
And
Monsanto.
they support a lot of local farmers. I don't even know if they have any feet on the ground or they have any acreage, but that kind of thing. Yes, exactly. You're right on that stuff I was thinking about. Yes.
I'm sure we can include those groups in the outreach when we do the surveys.
Excellent.
Thank you, Commissioner Britton, Vice Chair Kim. Any additional feedback, question, comment, including from people online?
We have one public comment when the time's appropriate. But
Okay, so Commissioner Serena?
I was just gonna mention, I believe Monsanto has rebranded to be called Bayer. I think in an effort they had received a lot of negative, which, understandably, right? But they are rebranded and trying to put on a new face.
What is the new enemy name?
Bayer?
Bear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of like effort to, they were receiving a lot of negative press.
Thank you.
You just, kind of like got me very curious about that. Renaissance, reinvention, I don't know what to call it. I want to hear more, but thank you for that information. Do we have any additional comments from commissioners before opening to public comments? No, okay, so let's hear the public comments.
We have LT.
Thank you. You have the floor. You have 3 minutes. You're invited if you would like to state your name and any affiliation you like us to know about? I think I know who this is, but I'll leave it to the person to state the full name if they want to. You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Lupita and I am a resident of Davis. And I have some concerns. I'm not sure what the commentary is on right now, but I'm just going to bring up concerns with VCE, Valley Clean Energy. I opted out of the program because I live in an apartment that has solar panels. So we are already being green. And so I'm not sure why VCE continues to charge me. I just saw on my statement that they're charging me again. I guess you have to opt out annually. And that's unacceptable. I've been on door, it's like the neighbor next door neighbor or something like that. And I've seen other families struggling. During the pandemic, I saw comments from disabled families that had people on ventilators that had to pay this extra cost for Valley Clean Energy. And it was an automatic opt-in by the county. And as far as I understand, it sounds like it was like a mandatory automatic opt-in. All the supervisors unanimously supported it. However, this situation, it's been over 2 years. I've been complaining about it. I've been trying to keep it on the down low. I'm going to make a stink about it now. All these families that don't want to be opted in, they need to be paid back. You guys need to give the families find all the families, the disadvantaged, socioeconomically disadvantaged families that this has been affecting. I just had a friend from the same apartments that I live in. She got charged over $100 one month. That is unacceptable. She could barely buy groceries. So either this needs to be remedied immediately, or I'm going to make a big, huge stink about it. However big of a stink I need to make, I don't care, because it's been 2 years and they have not even addressed it with the residents in my apartments. And I can only imagine on a county level how many other people are struggling to buy food and pay rent every month. And then they have a $30 extra bill tacked onto their PG&E. That's unacceptable. That is extremely unacceptable, especially us. We already have solar. There's no reason why we should be getting charged. So either this needs to be remedied quickly, or this is going to have to be taken to a whole nother level. And I don't know what avenues I have to take it to, but I'm going to take it to where I need to take it, because I'm tired of sitting around and waiting for these families to get paid back when they don't even have money to put food on the table. That is not okay. That is not green. That's not sustainable. That's not worthy of the climate action, anything. Because there's no excuses why anything that we're doing that is green should be disproportionately affecting families that are not able to afford it. Low-income families should not take on the burden of an extra additional energy charge when most of the times they're not the ones that are contributing the most to the carbon footprint. Thank you.
Lupita, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for your comment. I would like to let you know also, it seems that you had left a similar comment online asking a question. So I would like to let you know that Kristen, who is our sustainability manager, read it earlier to make sure that it will be in public record. And she also invited you to connect via email at sustainability@yolo.org so she can further help with that and connect you with the right people on this issue. Okay, so again, thank you for joining us. Any additional public comment?
No additional public comment at this time.
Okay, so it is 6:24. I think this concludes our time on agenda item number 8. Let's move on to number 9. And I'm asking my fellow commissioners if you have any reports, comments, announcement you like to make, future agenda items that you like to suggest. Yes, Commissioner White.
Oh, sorry, a quick comment.
Yes.
A clarification on the email address. And thanks, Gretchen, for
Thank you,
catching. The email address is sustainability@yolocounty.org.
Did I say yolo.org? Oh my, you only live once. Just kidding. Thanks for the correction. Commissioner White, we're listening.
So very quickly, one of our early actions had to do with implementing home energy score. And we put that in knowing that there was funding coming, and that funding opportunity is open. So the federal government has a competitive grant program. It's called the EEBCG. And the first step on it is writing a concept paper, which is due on June 5th. And it is specifically, one of the items that they're specifically funding is home energy score implementation in rural counties.
Thank you, Commissioner White. I think I saw that information too. Yes. Okay, noted. Any announcements, comment? Any agenda item you'd like to see in the future?
Well, actually, after hearing the last public comment about this issue, I'm not sure where our commission has a role here exactly, but this actually does sound concerning, and wondering if there's a way we can hear back from someone from staff or VCE on what they're doing to make sure that at least they're communicating to residents that that these charges are happening, and if they don't want to be a part of the charge, that they have to opt out or.
Okay, thank you. So that was Vice Chair Kim. So I'm going to reiterate what I said. So one thing we know for sure is that Kristen will follow up with Lupita, and we're taking note of your suggestion, and I think we'll get back to you and see if it's something that's viable or not. Yes.
Yeah, I think this is outside of the scope of work of this commission. We'll do as staff. This is something we'll follow up with Lupita and connect her with staff at VCE who can help address this. And we can check in, but this is outside of the scope of our commission. So I think we'll handle it at staff level.
Also, just as a reminder, again, we are looking at everything that directly concerns the climate action plan, just as a reminder. But yes, Commissioner Ullman.
Yes, I want to make it clear there is a VCE Community Advisory Committee. I happen to be the chair of that committee. Those meetings are open to the public. The meetings are announced on the VCE website. In addition, if customers of VCE have questions about their specific bills, that the call center is perfectly adequate for answering those inquiries. The policies are open as well. And I would also address mention that the board meetings are open to the public if members or if customers are interested in observing those. But this is an open and transparent process. The charges levied by VCE or agreed upon by VCE by policy are at parity with electric generation charges of PG&E. So beyond that, I'm not going to discuss it further here in this venue, but I would suggest attending the CAC or the Community Advisory Committee meetings, which are open to the public. We have one this Thursday, beginning at 5 o'clock in the Davis City Council chambers.
Thank you, Commissioner Ullman. That is much needed, useful information. Yes, Commissioner Dattel.
Yeah, I wonder when we have on our menu to revisit the early action projects. When are we going to get another round of updates on how those are doing?
So something next month, but Kristen, do you want to? I want to invite you while we're talking about it. We're not on agenda item number 10, but I invite you to look at attachment O already.
I'm just reminding myself, looking at our early action projects. We had a second item on here in September that's going to be bumped earlier since the time that I put this packet together. The county is re-exploring how to reuse unspent ARP funds. And I think specifically as we think about our early actions, I'm tying that into our ARP funds because that's what's primarily funding them. And so I think that there's conversations going on at the county about funding over the next few months. And so I don't have a good sense yet of whether it would be appropriate to have that conversation before the new budget cycle, or if September, once budgets have been assessed and we know how much money we're working with. But I'm trying to find more information from county administrator's office about how that process is going to move forward so that I can judge when best we want to bring that back to the commission. But in the coming months, we'll have a discussion around a second round of early actions. If we would like an update on progress in the meantime, I would be happy to provide that at an upcoming meeting as a staff report.
Well, and I was asking about the current actions, not the second round, although I could see that those two are obviously related because some of the new funding might be adding and expanding that first round.
So I understood it, that you were asking about the current, the ones that we had already approved, right? Yes. And then also I was mentioning the attachment or because at some point it's not all about all the projects, but there is one that is standing out. It's the Yolo agricultural equipment retrofit program early action project. So that's going to be presented to the Board of Supervisors if I'm reading well. Okay, so that's one item that I know we're going to hear from for sure. But Kristen, I won't speak for everyone, but I heard what Robin said, and I believe we'll take you up on your offer to give us an update on the progress whenever you see fit.
Yeah, I think we gave our last update in January, and there's really not much to update right now. I think we've applied for 3 different grants that we're waiting to hear back on. And so until we hear one way or the other, sort of we're in a holding pattern. So we can chat internally to see when the best time would be, but probably not next month, but maybe in June.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Kim.
Quick question. So is as Commissioner White mentioned, the home energy score, that's part of the first early action, right?
Correct. And we have applied for a grant to fund that we're waiting to hear back on. We applied for a grant in partnership with the City of Davis to try to expand it as a pilot program beyond just unincorporated Yolo County. So that's one of the grants that we're waiting to hear back on, and we're hoping to hear within the next 3 weeks.
Thank you, Kristen. So it is 6:33. We're almost at the end of our meeting. I think just a couple more minutes. If someone needs to go, we understand. But I think I'm going to, after asking for public comment on this agenda item, we'll move on to number 10. Do we have any public comments on the announcement from commissioners?
I don't see any. There are a number of comments in the chat from Lupita.
Okay.
I'll read the most updated one for
Thank you.
public record. Lupita asked NJ to share her phone number with me so that we could communicate via phone. And she, I think one of the, I'll follow up with Lupita.
Okay, so I have Lupita's contact information and I will make sure that you have it so you can communicate directly with her. Thank you. So I think this concludes our time on agenda item number 9. So we're moving on to agenda item number 10. I invite you again to look at the long range calendar. If there is anything that you would like to speak about, now is the time. Commissioner Britton.
Yeah, so I heard what you said, Kristen, about the funding or the budget coming up in September, and that's why the second round of discussion might appear then. But I was wondering whether it would be useful for you to hear us brainstorm about second round early action items before the budget comes due, so then there could be maybe help you in talking through and thinking through budget options. That if we were to prioritize some items that were of importance to the commission, would that help staff consider the budget updates?
Unfortunately, the discussions, or not unfortunately, but the reality is the discussion around budgets are happening within the county administrator's office and with department heads. And so the current structure is evaluating current ARP projects for appropriations for additional funding. And so one of the questions that I raised was whether there would be a consideration for additional new projects that might be open for additional funding. And that's something that the county administrator's office is still considering. And so I think that's where my hesitation comes from, because once we have more information, if we are in fact able to propose additional projects, absolutely, that should be on the agenda before June for sure. But if we're sort of stuck with the current line of projects being the only ones potentially available for additional funding, I think we'll likely have to wait. And then just the conversation would then be, how do we want to expend the rest of our remaining ARP funds that's already been allocated to us?
Thank you. So I think this concludes our time on agenda item number 10. So we have a few upcoming outreach events. The Whole Earth Festival is 3 day long. I encourage you, if you have 1 hour or 2 to spare, please consider signing up. It is 6:36. I thank you all for your time and service to our community, and I hope that you have a fantastic week and end of the month of April. Okay. Have a good week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, NJ. It's on the full team through. That's
Oh
awesome.
yeah, I always like blender in the beginning.
went through a lot of things.
That's what it seems like.
Going out of order. You know what, Kristen?
Seems like an impressive.
I'm just ecstatic.
I think next month